Hey guys, what is up? It has been a hot minute since I've made a video. In fact, it's been a hot minute since I've played any kind of Souls PvP at all. In fact, what you're looking at here is some of the very first footage of me doing any kind of Souls PvP in about 2 years, I think. And it's really been about 3 years since I've played anywhere seriously at all. The game came out, I wasn't that interested. The game was broken in a lot of ways, really turned me off. And it's only been recently that I felt like, hey, I want to give this game another shot. I want to try playing. And because I'm rusty, I'm pretty bad. And then because the game's changed a lot, I'm even worse than I thought I would be. So this first video back, this is not going to be a how-to. This is not going to be a how to get good. In fact, if anything, it's going to be a lesson on the things not to do. You will see that my DS3 brain is still infused in my playing. It's been a very difficult adaptation to try to get away from doing all the things from in DS3 and trying to convert to Elden Ring. And what I thought I'd like to do today is talk a bit about some of the things that have changed, what I think has changed for the better. We'll maybe in the future talk about what I think's changed for the worse. Today, I want to keep the focus a bit positive and talk a bit about what the game holds for us and some of the changes that have come along. So I want to start with some of the changes that From made that I think are really positive. I think first of all, the depth of moveset, the richness of movesets is really a big step forward from DS3. I mean, realistically in Dark Souls 3, you had R1, you sometimes had a weapon R, but not very often, and sometimes you had an R2. But R1, probably 98% of the melee attacks in that game were R1. This game has added so many cool mix-up, multiple running attacks. You've got viable jumping attacks in this game. You've got crouch attacks, a lot of ways to mix up your timings other than just changing the timing with which you press R1. That is all really great. I'd love to see that. The game's also changed in some other, I think, more subtle ways. There's been a lot of things they've changed in the menus. They've made things more efficient. But there's a lot of subtle things too, like the delay when you Estus. There's just maybe like a fifth of a second delay before the Estus kicks in relative to DS3. I think that's good. Here you'll see if you're watching me fight, I make just a ton of mistakes. This is definitely not a how-to video. I'm more sharing this to show you guys where I'm starting from. I'm not any good at this game, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Probably things a lot of you guys figured out a year ago. One thing I've noticed, the spacing feels a lot different. In fact, it reminds me of going from PC spacing on DS3 to PS4 spacing. Like the spacing is not as forgiving as what I'm expecting it to be. So there's a ton of times where I'm sure I've got an attack outspaced and I don't. Now, a lot of these attacks, in fact, virtually all of these weapons and their attacks are completely new to me. In some cases with hilarious results where you'll see me get caught out by like total noob getters. It's kind of embarrassing, but it's funny at the same time. So everything's new. I'm learning a ton as I'm playing this. I've also noticed attacks seem to come out a lot faster than what I'm expecting. And I'm not sure if it's maybe some sort of input delay on my end, though I don't think so because my setup hasn't really changed that much. I don't know if the active frames on attacks are starting sooner. I haven't quite figured this one out, but I've noticed that even when it looks like I should be able to reaction roll attacks, I really can't. And we're going to talk a bit more about that in a minute. So in the same vein as attacks coming out sooner, it also feels like it's harder to roll attacks in this game. Where sometimes I feel like I roll and either it eats my input or even if it's not eating my input, like maybe I just didn't get the roll out in time. There's something just around active frames and rolling that I'll probably just get used to here pretty quickly, but I'm still trying to figure out. And you'll see me eat some silly attacks. In some cases just because I missed the roll, but most of the time in these clips when you see that, it's because I pressed roll and I thought I had plenty of time to roll the attack and I can't. You'll see some fights later on. If they make the edit here, they may not have against some spears, and I've been trying to like strafe BS spears, and obviously backstabs have been substantially nerfed in this game, but even in cases that look like they should be very clear-cut backstabbable attacks, and I'm unable to get it. I can't even get the strafe. That could be latency. I'm not really sure. Again, all this is sort of new and I'm trying to figure it out. I mentioned the attacks coming out faster and being difficult to react, and I had some fights against Mocha, and he's the one that actually convinced me to use the 2 straight swords as kind of my first setup, and it works pretty well. I gather it's sort of a try-hard setup, or at least that's kind of the perception. I don't know where it really ranks yet. I'm trying to figure this out, but I noticed that Mocha was able to really bully me because he could kind of get in my face and start jumping, and my approach was, okay, well, I'm not going to roll just because he jumps. I'm going to wait. I'm going to try to reaction the attack, but it was very difficult to read, and by the time I read it, even though it felt like I had time to roll, I didn't, and I would get caught out. And I talked to Mocha about this very problem, and he said, no, that's a real thing. You pretty much have to commit to the roll, at least against this weapon. As soon as they jump, you really can't distinguish the difference. And that got us talking about the fact that there's a lot more attacks and moves in this game that you really can't react to. You have to make a read. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting change, because in Dark Souls 3, you could reaction virtually every attack in that game. And if you look at the meta, the weapons that everybody liked to use, they were the meta specifically because they were very difficult to reaction. Things like Murky and daggers and Corvian, PK and other curved swords, attacks like that you couldn't really reaction, or off stock, another one of my personal favorites. That's what made them so strong. And so a game that forces you to make reads and won't let you just react to attacks all the time, I think that's probably a really good change overall. And for one, I like it so far. Mocha is way better than I am right now, so he just absolutely stomped my guts in. But I learned a lot, and when you first start playing a game like this, the first few weeks, you're just learning so much every time out, and that's how I feel right now. This particular build that I'm using right now, I built using Cheat Engine. Took me probably about 25 minutes or so to get it together. One of the other things that's turned me off to the PvP in this game is the thought of going through the game again to make another build. The thought of going through and having to visit all the various little caves and dungeons and trying to keep track of, out of the 150 of them, which ones you've been to and the ordering that you want to go through. And I know some folks like Dashing have built some guides, and I think there's other folks, so that you can get a build up more quickly. But every time I sit down and I think, well, I should hop on my PS5, I should make another build, I just get depressed. I just really don't want to play through the game again. And I never felt that way about Dark Souls 3. In Dark Souls 3, I probably went through that game and made builds at least 50 or 60 times across consoles and across PC. But I don't feel the same way about this game. But I think I will push through on PS5. I will make a build, so there'll be more to come about that. So again, I mentioned, obviously I'm still learning. Another thing that I'm trying to get accustomed to is the way that Poise works and how it kind of interacts with frame advantage. In Dark Souls 3, frame advantage was usually pretty clear cut. Now obviously it depended on the weapons to some extent, but if I R1'd you, I could combo you, and then if I took the second R1, you could move after the second R1. But if I kept swinging, I really can't think of any examples where I didn't have frame advantage. There were edge cases like running attacks, where if you used a running attack, the other player could get frame advantage on you. But generally with those out of the way, the attacker could press their advantage all the time, and that was one of the few advantages to being aggressive. And I feel like passive Poise changes that. Now I don't really understand exactly how it changes it, because I'm again still getting adjusted to all this, but I'm not really a fan of the Poise mechanic. In practice, it seems like I've told other people it's a buff to poor play. It lets bad players get away with more mistakes. It allows them to escape aggression and mix-ups, and they kind of get out for free when their Poise resets. But that still kind of remains to be seen, so we'll be talking more about that. I have a lot I want to say about parries in this game. parry mechanic has changed a lot. Parry's got a massive nerf in this game, massive nerf, not just because of riposte damage, but for a million other reasons, where like the second knock-on and third order effects have caused a substantial reduction in the value of parrying in this game. I've had a video about that actually I've wanted to make for some time, but because I haven't been playing, I didn't really want to try to talk about a game that I wasn't playing. But I do want to make a video about that. I've got at least 3 or 4 ideas for videos I think I'll probably be making here in the next couple of weeks, but we'll have to see. Overall though, I like the moveset depth really makes dueling very attractive to me, and I think dueling for me right now, that's really the place where I'm going to get better a lot faster. I've got a screenshot of the build that I'm going to include here at the very end, or maybe I'll put the stats in the description. I think I ended up just taking the Ape King's build, his strength build, and just completely replicated it, but it has like 20 in faith, the rune level is 20 in faith, and I really don't know why. I'm not sure. That could be for invasions. Probably it makes more sense in invasions to have access to a lot of the tools that come with faith. The way that this game has made so many of the spells have very low stat requirements, I think it was a very deliberate design decision to try to open up a lot more hybrid builds. Like in Dark Souls 3, there was a lot of talk about having hybrid builds, but the reality was if you wanted the good spells and you wanted them to do damage and you wanted useful spells or miracles, you pretty much had to commit to either an int or faith build. This game, I noticed when I was playing through, that's not the case. Like half of the spells probably don't require more than like 5 to 10 stat investment in a particular stat like int or faith, which is pretty cool. But for a build like this, I think I probably want to get rid of that faith. I need to actually check and see if this is actually G9's build or not, and if so, why he has those stat allocations. The absence of true combos, this is still taking some getting used to. I don't know quite how to feel about that. I think the absence of true combos is itself probably not such a big problem. I think for me, the real problem comes with the poise and the combination of the absence of true combos. And for me, at least, it's difficult to understand when I should be pressing my attack, when I should keep swinging. You'll see a lot of cases in these videos where, or these clips rather, where I keep swinging and the other player knows, and so they just start swinging immediately after they come out of hit stun, and I end up trading, and the trades are very unfavorable to me. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. Using more jumping attacks. The jumping attacks in this game are incredible, and not just as an attack, but as a mix-up, where I realized right away when I saw this game, like you don't even have to attack, you could just jump at people, just like you can just move at people and they'll start panic rolling. Same thing's true here. You jump at somebody, if they don't roll, you swing. If they do roll, you wait and then swing. And most players aren't sophisticated enough to catch on to what you're doing and to make those in-game adaptations to start pivoting their game and adjusting. And that's something I'm trying to do. I'm trying to pick up on reads that I'm getting from players. And there were things I didn't pick up on from the players I'm fighting here that I saw as I was making this video. I watched it back when I didn't have the pressure of having to fight. Things became much more apparent. So there's a ton of interesting things here. I don't know about the invasions, honestly. The invasions in this game still kind of piss me off in a number of ways. I think I will do some invading, but I'm definitely going to be more duel focused, at least in the short term, both because I think that's just what's cool and because that's what's going to help me improve, and to see a variety of weapons and to understand how people use them and the various idioms associated with these. So much more to talk about, guys. I'm probably going to go ahead and stop it here. First of all, thanks to everybody. I know a bunch of you guys have been asking if I was going to make Elden Ring videos. I've gotten a bunch of comments in streams and on my YouTube videos. I really appreciate the interest. It's very flattering. I'm happy to be able to be making these videos. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for checking in, guys. Take care now.